Yo, what is going on, homies? It's your boy StumpD back for the OPTC video, and in today's video, we're doing the final type breakdown for Pirate Rumble, and in today's video, we're focusing on the INT type. Now, INT is a very interesting one because INT has a variety of different options. Like, it has an array of options, and just like Psy, its counterpart, it only has one counterpart, and it's offensive against it, it's defensive against it, and there are a lot of different teams that float around with INT. But in today's video, we're going to focus on two in particular. Obviously, the one that counters Psy, and then the INT-driven Powerhouse team. Now, INT-driven or INT Powerhouse has always been so prevalent in Rumble. It's always been incredibly good. Way back when like Jozu was out, and Katakuri and Blackbeard V2, the first super types, ruled the roost. These characters were always very, very good. And INT always had that benefit of having that class behind it. But now a lot of other teams do. However, it's kind of morphed into just a driven Powerhouse team, which we're going to talk about as well. But we're also going to break down how the team operates against Psy. We're going to break down a tier list. We're going to sort of have a look at some teams, have a look at some fights, and talk about some options that you guys need to be careful of when you are coming up against particular teams. But if you enjoyed the video, bolt the like button, hit the subscribe button if you haven't done so already, and in the comment section below, let me know what your favorite INT team is in the entire game, or what your favorite INT unit is to use. So with that said, let's take a look at the tier list, and let's dive into the video. Once again, shout out to the tier list maker and the OPTC database for the injuries provided. As always, we have the noob tier. These characters, you're not going to level them up for the INT team. That doesn't mean that there aren't some good units here. You can do some slash shenanigans with the Halloween slashes. There's some fighter options and some cerebral options here. I'm not saying these characters are bad. I'm just saying that for the INT team, you're probably not going to use them. There are some exceptions for defense though. Now, with INT defense, a lot of people either just run like that stupidly bulky ass driven Powerhouse build that we're going to talk about later, but there is a cerebral build that floats around, and that's sort of centric around these particular characters here. You got Komurasaki's healing, Uto's absolutely insane damage, the healing of Chopper. You can use stuff like Pudding, you have Reiju for O damage over time, Perona with their cooldown reductions, and you also have this Fire Tank Beach, the original defensive juggernaut, the big daddy himself, who still can work very, very well on defensive teams to stall out fights. But they're the defensive options if you do want to build out INT defensive teams. But as always, this video will be centric around attacking prowess. Now, as for options, INT has a lot of options. Like, a lot of options. It is going to have one of the only characters that I've included on this tier list that isn't an actual Pirate Festival rare recruit. And that's the regular rare recruit Enoru. If you have a bunch of I think if you only have like 5 members on the team, he gets like a massive passive buff, and he's a driven character, which makes him so good here. There's also a Sengoku, a free-to-play Sengoku that's in the PKA shop that works exceptional for defense teams. I didn't include him here, but he's another really good option for defense. But Enel's great as a bench option for the driven team if you guys are lacking some of the PvP rare recruits. He's very easy to attain. He came out alongside this Blackbeard and Katakuri as well. This Blackbeard's still pretty good with his level limit break, and he's 6+. Big Mom's a good nuker at the back end as well. She can do well. The HP cuts of Fuji's great. Marco's okay for damage output and healing, mainly for the cerebral team. Jozu, he's okay in the front lines. Whitebeard's not bad as a back-end option as well. Verse Kaido can see some play, and then Whitebeard or Roger. If you just have a spot on the bench and you're looking for a good unit, Whitebeard Roger are usually just the play, because they can just kill 2 units. They're the best PvP character in the game, and I definitely wanted to highlight that when we are talking about INT. Plus, they do boost INT as well. Moving up now, we have the counter-killer options. These characters are very good when you are versing Psy. Katakuri can nerf them to the shithouse with their CD reduction. The damage output that Euro can do to Psy is exceptional. Can halve stats, is very, very good. The nerfing capabilities of Konus is like a must-have when you're versing Psy. And then this Big Mom can actually work exceptionally well if you're doing some like Powerhouse-centric builds. She's actually very good when you are versing Psy as well, but she's at the back end of this list anyway. Moving up to Amazing now, these are some of the characters that you will see on majority of INT teams alongside the gods. The combination of the Giants works exceptionally well. I do think Brogy's probably better of the Giants, and he's so close to being on the cusp of the top tier in my opinion. He's so good in the front lines. I forgot how good this unit is in the front lines, but stereotypically you'll see him on the bench. Alongside Dory, the two of them work great with their amazing damage output, their nerfing capabilities to strikers. The special bind Dory can provide is also very handy. Apu is great at versing Psy, but he's just so good on any INT team because he can output so much damage that he just works exceptionally well. The Blackbeard Kid combination is an interesting one because Kid boosts INT and Driven, where Blackbeard boosts INT and Powerhouse. However, the two of them on the same team actually works exceptionally well because the synergy with Powerhouse and Driven just works so nicely, and a lot of characters are actually Driven Powerhouse or Powerhouse Driven, so that works nicely. The combination of Kid and Killer can work exceptionally well too. Killer only boosts Int. He doesn't do anything with Driven, but if you are doing some more Driven-centric builds, you can easily use Killer over something like Blackbeard, but Blackbeard's passive is so good for some characters we'll talk about at the top of the list. Yamato can still see play. If you have a 6-star Yamato, she's great because she has half stats. Half stats is the most annoying mechanic in PvP, but it's still one of the most broken mechanics. So if you can half stat the enemy, you are going to be at a heavy advantage, and Yamato can do that nicely. And then you got Dofi. Dofi still holds his own up here with his level limit break. He's always been exceptional in Rumble for slasher teams. On top of that, he's always been good on the Int team because it's been Int-driven centric. He doesn't boost Int per se, but if you're looking for another really good option for your Int-driven team, Dofi, don't look further than Dofi because he's very, very good at damage output. He's got great defensive capabilities, and he finds his way onto a lot of teams. Finally, you've got the gods of the Int team. I am never building a team that doesn't have Moria on it. Moria, in my opinion, is the best Int character, and it's so nice to see this character age like fine wine because he has a 100% chance to half stats. Once again, half stats is like the most broken mechanic in PvP. Don't get me wrong, it's the most annoying. I hate half stats. However, like if you can use it to your advantage, you are going to be in for a good time because it does help you get a massive edge on the enemy. Next, we've got Uta, another half stats unit, except for defense, but halving the attack and all those annoying shenanigans. She also does so much damage and has a lot of good passive abilities for Driven. So, stereotypically, you're building Driven, but she's also a powerhouse character too, so you can use these types of characters here as well. All these characters are powerhouse driven, driven. You see the trend, right? You can see it, right? Powerhouse driven. Like, they all work exceptionally well. And then finally, Smoker. Smoker's up there as probably one of the best PvP recruits in the entire game. He works exceptionally well at the back end of any team. His 20-second special bind is so annoying to handle. And he can clutch out fights at the back end. The combination of, like, these 3 units on your bench is so incredibly powerful. But nowadays, like, I honestly like running Brogy in the front. But, like, we'll talk about it once we get there. But that's basically the tier list for Ints. Hopefully you guys can get a good crux of that. I'll leave a link in the description, and hopefully I've done that correctly once again for you guys, and you guys will be able to understand why these characters are actually there. But like I said at the start of the video, let me know in the comment section below what your favorite Int character is when you are running Ints. But with that said, let's dive into some fights. Alright, so the first team we're going to talk about is the Anti-Psy team, and as always, I'm going to have some fights on the left for you guys. Hopefully I haven't butchered it, and like I try and keep them like centric to what you're seeing on the right. But as always, the team that we're talking about is on the bottom, and the team that we're stereotypically coming up against is at the top. So, Psy is a 50-50 for majority of fights, and there's some like builds that you'll see, but these are the ones that I've highlighted, the characters that you will stereotypically see, stuff like Enel, Kuzan, Yamato, Odin, Law, Roger, Rebecca Toy Soldier, all those types of characters will pop up quite a bit, stuff like Struce and Smoothie, they're the ones that you will see stereotypically, but with the combination of Apu and the combination of your Rogue, you can do a lot of damage output to these particular characters. Now, as I mentioned, Moria is a staple on every single one of my Int teams. He just has to come. His CT reduction on himself goes so early. As you guys will see in this fight, he's already gone off. He's halved the stats, and he reduces the amount of damage that you take from stuff like Odin and Yamato so heavily. Next, for your Psy nerfing, you've got Konus. Konus is a massive underrated unit, in my opinion. She dropped off like no one ever used her, and then she kind of came back into the meta once we got all these other really, really good PvP rare recruits, or PvP legends that did take down Psy as well. As you can see there, Apu just does absolute decimation damage to Psy. And with Konus, and you can use stuff like Katakuri too, with Konus, you can actually reduce the cooldown reduction of the Psy team to sort of counteract stuff like Wano Law. Finally, I like to use Broly or Brogy in the front, mainly because of his damage output. He has the ability to nerf strikers as well, and there's 3 big strikers that you guys can see on the right-hand side that do pop up on majority of Psy teams, namely Yamato and Kuzan, but Enel is another prominent one as well. So having Brogy in the front just gives you a lot of damage output. You can break through some pieces of the puzzle, plus this particular team has a lot of depth on the bench. As you can see, we're running Dory, you've got Smoker, you've got King. I've got a lot of PvP rare recruits at my disposal because we can run these 8-man teams. And it works exceptionally well if something like Whitebeard Roger comes into the play, takes out 2 of our units, we can easily clutch out the back with our bench. So the team functions really, really nicely and has a lot of damage output in the early stages of the fight. As always, you do have to be very, very careful of Wano Law, because Wano Law has that ability to nerf Powerhouse and Driven, and as you can see on this particular team, everyone is of those classes besides Konus. And the upside to Konus not being on that is means Konus doesn't actually take that level 6 CD reduction, but as you can see here, we're giving them level 6 CD reduction, so they're at a point where they don't have a lot of their specials ready to go. However, they do have one law increasing that. So if they didn't have one law on the team, like they would be even lower when it comes to CD reduction, which means that you would actually be popping your specials off so damn fast, you could easily take down some of these units. You got to be careful of stuff like Shank's crew and some other these like really powerhouse defensive units that sort of pop up here and there as well. So just be mindful of those characters as well. But nevertheless, if you are running a lot of anti-Psy, you can sort of break down the pieces very, very early. Nevertheless, though, Psy is the epitome of RNG, and if Yamato goes in and half stats all your units, you get a crazy hit from Odin and you lose all your characters, you will be in for a bad time. And there are teams and there are fights that I have gone in with the, like I've won 100 times with this one int team. I come up against this one side team that just looks no different to the ones that I fought before, and it just beats me. And it just makes no sense whatsoever, because Psy is just that team that is so annoying. When you fight it, it can absolutely tear through you, and when you use it, it just does absolutely fuck all. So just be mindful of that when you are versing Psy, but the characters that you really want to look at bringing is stuff like Orm, Konus, Katakuri is another really good option as well. You can easily bring this particular Katakuri here. He's another very, very good character to bring, as he can actually reduce the cooldown reduction of Psy drastically as well. So the combination of him and Konus works exceptionally well there. So just another option if you guys are missing stuff like Apu, or you're missing stuff like you Rogue, you can easily supplement them in with stuff like Katakuri. And you can use stuff like the Giants on the front line as well. So remember, you want damage output, but you also want that balance of nerfing capabilities as well. Because if the fight goes for too long and you have to see another Yamato special, like, you might be in for a really, really, really scary time. So that's the anti-Psy team in a nutshell. I don't know if I have any more fights on the anti-Psy team. We'll have a bit of a look. But this is another variation of it if you guys are missing some of those PvP rare recruits. Alright, so I actually have a fight with Katakuri, which is really, really nice to see. As I mentioned, like, if you guys don't have stuff like Apu, or you don't have stuff like your Rogue, I do understand, like, they're Pirate Festival legends. Characters that you can easily bring in are, like, your PvP rare recruits of stuff like Dory and Brogy. They're really, really good at damage output as well. So if you have the Giants, which are probably a little bit more, or probably a little bit easier to attain than stuff like the legend characters, they work exceptionally well too. You don't need to go too crazy with the like Psy nerfing capabilities. You do want to have a lot of damage output as well. But the upside to your Rogue, the upside to Apu, is they actually have the ability to just tear through the Psy team really, really nicely. But the upside to the Giants, you can easily bring them in because they have great abilities to counter strikers. As you guys will see here, there's Yamato, there's Kuzen on this team, a bunch of striker characters. But if you do have like Apu or you have your Rogue and you have one of the Giants, I would highly recommend using Brogy in the front and then using Dory in the back, like I have been doing in those like previous teams. But if you have both of them, they both work as great like bench options too. Whether you have your Rogue, whether you have Apu, you can do some really, really cool things with the damage output. I do believe Apu is just a better version of your Rogue. But if you have both of them, you can easily slide both of them on the team. Make sure to use something like Konus to reduce the cooldowns of their team, so you can increase your cooldowns, so that way you can see that your Rogue special very, very quickly. But if you had both Apu or your Rogue, can't find a spot for one of them on the team, I would highly recommend using Apu over something like your Rogue. But nevertheless, they do both work very, very well when you are versing Psy. So if you have both of them, be very, very happy because they're exceptional units when taking down these particular fights. So that's the anti-Psy teams in a nutshell. The thing I want to leave you guys with when you are using these teams is just be mindful that Psy is an absolute shit show. It can do amazing things. It can do really poor things, like I said in yesterday's video. And if you do lose a couple of fights, even with these anti-Psy teams, don't beat yourself up, because like with perfect RNG, Psy can literally beat anything, anyone, anytime. And it's very, very annoying to go up against because of how powerful that combination of half stats and the Odin special can be. So let's move on to the Driven team now, and let's take a look at some fun stuff. Alright, so moving on to the fun stuff now, you can take the Int Driven team into PvP and have a lot of fun. Now, as I spoke about on the tier list video, you have like the tier list part of the video, you have a lot of really, really good options when it comes to Driven and Powerhouse units. But on top of the characters that you do see on the Int class, you have a lot of very good Driven characters outside of it, namely through the Quick color as well. So you can merge Quick and Int together and build out these really funky Driven Powerhouse based teams. And as you guys will see with this team, we brought Blackbeard in because he boosts Powerhouse, which is everyone except the kid on this team. And then we brought Fuji in. Fuji's purely an Int based, a Driven based booster, and is a Powerhouse character as well. So Fuji's boosting everyone on this team, not getting boosted by Moria, and Kid's not getting boosted by Blackbeard. But all in all, the team works exceptionally well, and you can actually take down some like big Psy teams, as well as other teams in the game. And I wanted to highlight the Dex team. This particular team in Grand Party, the Int team was running Riot for so long with particular rule boosts and the buffs that it got. And with GP bursts and GP leaders and all those extra stats, this particular team is so incredibly tanky. It has great damage output. It can go the distance. It has survivability. It's very, very good at taking down some of those big end teams that you're probably very, very scared of. Not only Psy, but stuff like Dex, stuff like other quick teams and stuff like that too. So I wanted to highlight the Dex team at the top there. Even with like Pell and Dalton nerfing Fuji, like you can actually still do a lot of damage output, and you don't have to worry about Fuji taking too many shots, because Fuji will like always get his special off once. He gives you so much bulk, and then you can have your bench units come in of, like I said, Dory, Brogy, and Smoker being like the best bench in the entire game. Just, it works exceptionally well. Uta just does so much damage. The half stats that you have with this team works exceptional. You have Moria half statting, Uta half statting, damage output with Blackroot out the wazoo, and the special binding and damage output Kid provides work exceptionally well too. So if you haven't used Driven Powerhouse before, it's one of the best teams in the game, and it's definitely something I want to highlight it over here on the Int video, because this is where it shines the most, and this is where the most crossover sees for this particular team. Another variation of the team looks a little bit like this. You have stuff like Blue Jam, you have stuff like Tesoro on the team too. And if you really want to go like 50-50 with it, you can bring a lot of these quick units in while still keeping the core crux of Driven. Now, Tesoro is a rainbow booster. Driven boosting with Blue Jam works exceptionally well. And then Moria, just being Moria, is so good that he can just buff Uta, and then you just have half stats going crazy with stuff like Blue Jam, Moria, Uta, fixed damage with Tesoro, and it just works exceptionally well. And going up against stuff like Strength works wonderfully, because you have that nullification of damage through the quick core that you have built out. If you lose something like Moria after using his special, that's fine, because you have that bench of the giants coming in. You can use like Pork Me on the bench too if you want. You have stuff like Conjuro as other options, and Driven just work so well when we are talking about the crux of these particular teams. However, there are some characters you want to be careful of when you are running either the Driven team or whether you are running the Int team. Also, you have a lot of very good bench options, which we're going to touch on here. Some characters you want to be careful of if you are running Int is stuff like Kuzan. Obviously, stuff like Wano Law can just absolutely tear you to shreds. Whitebeard and Roger, they just kill 2 units all the time, so be very, very careful if you do see them on a team. The Straw Hat Crew, they have so much survivability that they can get Yamato's special back a second time, so be careful of that. And then obviously characters that just go through defense, like King, Kid, all those types of characters, you do need to be careful of as well. As for your bench options, when we are talking Ints, the Giants, as I've been rambling on about, they are exceptional bench options. You have Blue Jam, you have Porkamy, those particular characters from the quick typing, they work great. Smoko is like a must on your bench, he's so damn good. And you can even use Whitebeard Roger yourself when you are building out your Int team, because Whitebeard and Roger will buff Int as well. So whether you're running the Int team, whether you're running the Int-driven team, the more Powerhouse-driven centric build, or you're just building out the Driven team in general, Int has always been very, very good in Pirate Rumble, and has always been at the top of echelons when we are talking about type teams. But now when we're talking about class teams, which the meta has sort of shifted into, which we're going to touch on later in the next couple of videos as well, running Driven can be so much fun, and in stuff like Grand Party, it has been a staple for a very, very long time. But let me know your thoughts and opinions of these teams in the comment section below. Do you like running the Driven Powerhouse team? Do you like just running Driven? Do you like just running Ints? Do you like the bulkiness? Do you like the attacking prowess? Do you like the half stats? Let me know what your favorite part of the team is in the comment section below. While you're down there, don't forget to belt the like button for me. Hit the subscribe button. Do all that good stuff for me. Most importantly though, guys, wherever you guys are in this beautiful world, please remember to enjoy the rest of your day. As always, homies, thank you for watching, and I will catch you all in the next one. Let's
潰してやる。
大海賊時代はもうおしまい。平和で自由な時代が来るんだよ。